Okay, well, hi, this is Zav, and you're listening to Gabe and Zav's movie review show. Hey, Jim. See you later. And we're waiting for Gabe to call in. He's going to introduce the show, and then we're going to go to a recorded interview that we did with Brooke Moraldi and with, I'm suddenly spacing, the director of The Making of Milwaukee, Claudia Luz. And so hopefully I can get that working and everything is going to be peachy. And Gabe's going to call in basically the movie news of the week, and then we're going to finally tie it all up with Mark Escribano, who wants to come in and talk a little bit about a project that he's doing. I think it's in LA. He's also a former Milwaukee filmmaker, and so we're going to wrap it up with a little talk with Mark Escribano at the end of the hour. And we're on now with, oops, I guess Gabe called. He's going to call again. So hopefully we can make it all work together within the 1 hour period of time, but if not, I don't know. We'll see what happens. So this is just the awkward silence before the beginning of the show when Gabe comes in. And I don't know what's wrong. The phone is ringing, but it's not. I'm not getting him. Let's hope he keeps trying. I've got Gabe on the line. What's happening, Gabe? What do you... Yeah, because I'm hearing it ring, and then when I answer the phone, it doesn't, I just get a dial tone. Let me just check something. Hey, Pete, that phone isn't off the hook or anything, is it? You know what, Gabe? I'll call you. Okay, so we're going to reverse it. I'm going to call Pete. And that'll work. So, this is a very professional radio show. And we do everything with the highest quality material at all times. And we're highly stressed as well. All right, let's hear those nothing. With the black inside a cage.
Hello, Gabe.
Hello, Gabe. Well, it's time to give us the movie review of the week and get this show on the road, as they say.
Let's go. Now for a show for June 22nd. This is your box office film and movie news. So, box office for June 17th. Last Monday was Madagascar 3 open. Sorry, Madagascar 3 stayed number one at the box office with $34 million. Really strong second place. Prometheus stayed second as well with $20 million. Ahead of expectations. The two movies that opened in the very weekly. Rock of Ages, which opened third with $14 million, and That's My Boy, the Addison, which opened fourth with $13. Both of these movies were expected to be reached it and take the other two films off their spots. It did not happen. Both of these movies had smaller first-year averages, and both of the two films were claiming the top and second spots, both of which were in their second week of release. So for two films opening, both of which respectively had huge movie stars in them, Rock of Ages having Tom Cruise, and That's My Boy having Adam Sandler respectively. This is a big disappointment for major studio releases, especially in this slot. Blockbusters, especially for star-first vehicles like this, it's just embarrassing at this point. Still William the Huntsman was fifth, 8 million. In the Black Panther was 6 and 10 million. Marvel's The Avengers was 7. Best Exotic Miracle Hotel was 8th place with 2. Moonrise Kingdom rose up to 9.2 million. And Battleship sunk to 10 with 1.2. Now, a little bit more on Rock of Ages and That's My Boy. They both were filmed with strong music. Rock of Ages taking place in the 80s and utilizing all the history nostalgia about the era as possible. That's My Boy having Adam Sandler play a character sucks. They both underperformed, which shows either A, there's a lack of interest in this decade, or there's a lack of hit and immediate go-to value in this decade, which I think for some reason the studios just thought, oh, that's 80s, fun. Everyone's going to want to spend money to watch this movie. Yet both films have a really depressing and sardonic tone, but I don't know why we thought so much time was attached to it. The illusion of star power might be too. Tom Cruise is attached to Rock of Ages, and although advertised for the film very little, this is a Tom Cruise vehicle. And That's My Boy. This is the biggest flop that I've had ever. Smallest movie than Happy Gilmore in 1996. And, I mean, this is just absolutely really small numbers for him, which I think time is finally catching up with his stupidity. So Madagascar 3 and Prometheus still held the top 2 spots. Rock of Ages was the 6th highest opening for a musical, 3rd all time for a film adapted from a stage musical. But like I said, with the prime summer release date, this is just a huge disappointment. And That's My Boy just way underperforming. Half of Jack and Jill's $25 million opening last November, which was already a huge disappointment. And this movie pulled in even less than Sandler's previous most notorious bomb, Little Nicky, which only pulled in 16.1 on its opening weekend. So there are reasons to possibly explain this. One is that Tom Cruise was out of the doubt. Normally, an action film star, and this one he played a sort of Def Leppard-y, Bon Jovi type of rock star. And Sandler played a very crude and very unlikable character, whereas normally he's a family movie star. So that could explain that, but I think both of these movies actually turned out to be pretty unremarkable, and I think it's good that audience is pretty clear about it. Opening June 22nd, Seeking a Friend at the End of the World, which is a new film starring Steve Carell and Keira Knightley. It's a romantic comedy about the last days before the end of the world. Steve Carell finding love with the quirky neighbor next door. What I've been reading about this film is that it has moments, it's lovely, it's funny, but it's also annoying, aggravating, and underwritten. And it just kind of falls apart in the last third. If the plot sounds appealing to you, this is the movie you're going to see no matter what, go see it, but obviously not one to fight for. Pixar's Brave, which is Pixar's latest film, is a medieval fairy tale about a teenage girl defying tradition and discovering herself, and it doesn't live up to Pixar standards, as did Cars 2 of last year, which critically was by far their worst reviewed film they've ever released. I mean, I'd say by a 50% margin. Most of their films are usually rated as one of the 10 best of the year, and Cars 2 is rated as just a below average animated film at best, pandering to adult audiences, just going for lowbrow humor instead of sort of hack it out sequel, instead of really using the intelligence and the beauty and the flair that they're known for. So although this film is enjoyable, beautiful, and the main character is quite engaging and the most fleshed out and the best part of the film. It ultimately becomes disappointing. It's pretty predictable. There's the only consistently good thing that I've been reading about it through all the reviews is that there's some oddly complex themes about mother and daughter relations, which could definitely be applied to young girls and teenagers living in the modern age, which I guess is a little brave for this film. But other than that, this film is totally predictable and not in sync with the usual Pixar fare, but still good. Still good for children, for family fare. Above average in that respect. Abraham Lincoln's Vampire Hunter. Film that I've been wondering about, that a lot of people have been wondering about. How are they going to play this film? Are they going to play it for laughs, or are they going to play it serious? The trailers have been overly serious for this film. They just seem really straightforward and straight-laced. But with a title like that, how can you do that? How do you make it work? It just has to be so over the top. The only way that a movie like this can work is if you shoot it in the vein of a Sam Raimi film, an early Sam Raimi film, like Evil Dead or Army of Darkness, where you know where you understand the material that you're working with. That clearly is not the case with this film, apparently. Overly serious. Doesn't fare well with this silly premise. Great title. Hilarious title. Terrible movie. A single joke concept that isn't funny enough. That isn't really even that funny, but yet it's relied upon to sustain the whole film. The last time that this happened was with the disaster piece, 1,000 Words with Eddie Murphy, where he played a man who's not allowed to speak through the whole film, where Eddie Murphy is normally known for his one asset, that he's a really funny, very fast-spoken comedian. This movie's in a similar vein. It takes a joke and it spins it on its head and plays it for non-laughs. It's just completely unironic, and it's just this complete disaster. Could have been knowingly tongue-in-cheek, but at the end it ends up just being just sort of deliriously bad and cartoony and fake. I guess even the special effects aren't good enough to fall back upon. Really insulting to history, too, is what I've been reading from a couple of reviews. And that is your box office and film news for the June 22nd show.
Right. And we're recording this show on the 24th, right? Is today the 24th? It's Monday night.
It is Monday the...
Yep, it is. 20th. And I believe it's the 24th. Okay. And what are we going to watch for next week? It's going to be... We're going to go to the...
we're going to go to Moonlight Kingdom.
Moonlight Kingdom.
Yep, Moonlight. It's going to be awesome.
That should be fun. And we're going to... Are we reviewing? What else are we reviewing? We're gonna Dragon Slayer, yeah, which has been released on DVD about it's a skateboarding documentary, and then what else? Are we gonna interview a filmmaker?
Retrospective on Wes Anderson.
I do that somewhat, and that is going to be Drew Rosen, because he asked me if we could do it on the 6th, which I think is next week. It's not no, it's not. Oh, the 6th is the other one. Okay, well maybe I'll see if we can do the 29th. Okay. And okay, well I'm gonna move on now to our interview that we did with Brooke and Claudia. According to Gabe, it's pretty gangster. Alright, well thanks Gabe, and we'll have fun in Sheboygan, and I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. All that I can see. That's pre-recorded.
I hope so too. Well, I'm going to also interview Marcus Cabano at the end of the show about a film that he's working on. So he'll be here towards the end of the show, and we'll wrap it all up.
This is the first time that I'll don't know how it's going to turn out. I'm excited. Okay, we'll have a good interview and have a good first interview. Wow. We'll see you soon.
We'll see how this goes. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
start this thing, and I don't want it too loud. I don't want it too quiet. It might start a little funny.
My dear love, it's not important enough for this to shake you all up.
Okay.
Why are you fighting with me? It's not important enough for you to be playing rough. We don't need the
We are here today interviewing Claudia Luz, who is the director, co-producer, and editor of The Making of Milwaukee, which was a documentary produced for Channel 10 in Milwaukee about the history of Milwaukee. Epic. It is an epic documentary, which I love, and many people that I know love. And there's...
Actually, I've been in touch with probably the biggest fan of The Making of Milwaukee is upstairs, Sarah Lou. Loves Making of Milwaukee. So.
She plays it just for the audio in the background, actually, while she works. She doesn't even watch it.
to it all the time.
Wow.
And we also have Brooke Meraldi, who directed Death of a Corner Drugstore, which was about the end of the Oriental Pharmacy many, many years ago.
And also an incredible gem of a documentary. I always heard about it, and I only finally got a chance to discover it because someone brought it in from the Milwaukee Public Library on VHS and wanted to make a dub of it. And then I made a dub of it, and I was like, I've been looking for this since the beginning of the video store, and I finally got it, and so I have a bootleg of it upstairs.
I love that there's bootleg this thing going. I mean, to reach bootleg status.
Quentin Tarantino talks all about bootlegs. And it's just an incredible. I feel like you captured a piece of history that is just so. It just becomes more priceless as time goes by.
Well, and as you see that neighborhood change and the whole city change, I agree with you. I didn't realize at the time how big a deal it was.
Yeah.
It was a big deal, but then now that everything is so different and homogenous, more homogenous than ever.
And also, now that people are awakening to sort of the errors of our ways, I feel like it's poignant too. It's sort of like, oh yeah, now we get it. Now we see what's happening. It's like everything is becoming corporate. The mom and pop is just gone. I feel like that was a harbinger of things to come. So, I guess where should we start with this? Because it's such a broad thing.
And I guess this is a question for both of you, and you can each go. I guess we'll start with you, Claudia. What was your inspiration for making this? When did you decide I have to make a movie about Milwaukee or something in Milwaukee? And when did that idea encapsulate itself? When, I guess before you went into pre-production, when did that spark get ignited?
Well, it actually was an idea by Milwaukee Public. And John Glitter already had his book that Making of Milwaukee. So you have the basis there, and then basically you just decide to film. It's only supposed to be about 3 hours, 5 hours. Just about history of the city. So we couldn't continue within 3 hours. So John took the book and basically took the manuscript of the book and he wrote the script. And then we kind of worked from the script to build a shooting script. So we found out where, where a lot of the pictures were for research. And we took it from there, did the research for that, and then the recreation, actors for that, that were all the So even though the book was done, there's still a lot of research.
And was it a project that would you say it's the biggest project you've done, or is this something that the kinds of things you've been doing already, or how were you fast into it?
I was doing smaller projects for Channel 10, Milwaukee Public TV, so I was doing editing for Outdoor Wisconsin, did some long-form documentaries, mostly about history and speculative art, and they do like hour-long things. But then this project just really grew. I think it's just because we were discovering things as we were researching things. So like when you have the script completely done, because maybe we have to do a common script, but then we kind of opened things up and just wanted to show like buildings being built, pleasures, pictures, the county of Milwaukee Library, and all these other archives that it just kind of like find these pictures, and I'm such a visual person that I had to like just open it up and have a little, have a little music, and open it up and go rest, go get a Coke or something.
Claudia's an amazing researcher.
I love
I
to
think
research.
you're so happy when you're in the library.
Love it.
That definitely comes across in the film.
Does
It
that's
definitely does. There's definitely an air of the research isn't heavy-handed ever, and there's definitely a sense of adventure as when they're with the Russes, which I literally could not wait to get home and keep watching this movie. I was busy at home while I was trying to get through this, and I was just like, I couldn't wait. I'll be honest, I like a lot of like unbalanced documentaries, but when you're not, it's the first thing I want to do when I come home after a 12-hour day at work. Watch Shelby Foote, who's my favorite interview subject of all time, talking about the South. Great for maybe an hour or two, but after hour number 8, it gets a little catchy. I never felt taxed while watching Milwaukee. I get what Sarah means when she says it's her favorite documentary.
Oh my God.
So, and then, what was your inspiration? What was your spark?
I was relatively new to Milwaukee. I moved here from New York. But
I still have it.
I don't think that. Okay. My mother says it. She says it. But I was pretty new, and one of the first places I went to that person took me to was the gun store. And I remember sitting at the counter and saying, if Milwaukee can support a place like this, I can live here. I very clearly remember having that thought sitting at the counter. And maybe it was 2 years later, I was watching the news or just heard the news, and they announced on the 10 o'clock news that it was closing, and it was though, and somebody else said this in the film, it was though I heard the news that somebody had died. Everybody was sort of in shock because it was always busy, had hardware store, the lunch counter, everything you could ever want was right there. And
Friends. You'd always see friends.
yeah, we'll always see people there. But, Oscar Judge was in a mode of taking over Milwaukee and a great many other markets, and, independent drugstores in general are just pretty much a thing of the past. There's a few stragglers hanging in there, but not too many. It's like, all kinds of mom and pop places.
Like hardware stores, old school video stores, and pharmacies, which your video store kind of is a mom and pop store minus the mom and pop. I guess you could be mom and pop.
Yeah.
We'll call you
Some
Pop.
family member. Yeah.
So that's good. And I guess, was your reason for making it, would you say more that you wanted to capture a piece of history for the future, or was it more a personal reason? Was it just out of the fact that you needed to make this? What was your reasoning?
Well, I just kept saying to myself, somebody needs to make a documentary about this. And I kept saying that to people, and people finally said, well, why don't you do it? And I just called up Mr. Eglash, the owner, and he seemed very surprised. He's a quiet, soft-spoken man, and he said, well, my only concern is if any of my customers don't want to be filmed. That was always his first concern about anything, his customers. And so he was nice enough to give me an interview at what was probably I know was an extremely painful time in his life, as well as waitresses and longtime customers. There were people. I basically went there every day for I don't know, 3 weeks or a month, almost every day, and I would see people there breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The same people. It was their home away from home, and especially with older people, it was a social, and so it was just one of those things. I said, I have to do this. I just have to do this. And when something like that happens, you have to be able to act quickly and dive in. And luckily, I was unemployed. Well, I was unemployed, so.
Do you think it helped that you were from outside and not Milwaukee, and at that time?
I kind of do, because I go by the whole spaghetti western thing of, here with Sergio Leone.
Yeah.
Is this Italian guy making some of the most incredible westerns of all time, in my opinion. I love spaghetti westerns. And, if you look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, his idea not only of American history but of geography is just crazy. It's like, what? There's civil wars in New Mexico? What's going on? But when you get past all that, the scope of it, the iconography, he brought Westerns to this operatic level. And I think he had to be an outsider to do that. And I think often we don't appreciate the things that we're used to.
Yeah, you don't see the woods through the trees.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Although the people I interviewed and many of the people who didn't want to be interviewed, there was love. There was real love for this place. And so I usually don't like it when there's a lot of talking heads in a documentary. But I felt like in this case, the people were so emotionally invested in what they were saying that it was okay. At least for me, it was. Like I didn't feel like I loved looking at their faces and hearing how I just found everybody to be extremely articulate about what they felt about.
Sincere.
It was a drugstore.
Right.
People had feelings about it.
Right. And I think that it comes across in your documenting the way you worked that it's very egalitarian, and that's part of what that drugstore was, is that you have these big wigs, people who are well known in the community, whatever high level people sort of, and then you have people who are at the very bottom rungs of society, but you treated them all equally, and you were able to really connect with these people in a very human way, which I think was came across very strongly for me when I watched it.
That's her art. You can talk to, you would be able to talk to the Queen of England, or...
Even if I wasn't spoken to, I'd talk to her.
Yes, you would, and you would, yes.
I'm waiting.
I know. No curtsying for you.
Greenie.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think that's... And then that's what the drugstore was, in a way. Yeah. And so it worked really well together with the documentary. That it's this place that everyone can go there and eat. And it wasn't a place that snobby people wouldn't go because it's a greasy spoon. They would go there because it's a greasy spoon and it's like the best one. And then other people are there, so it's a very inclusive place, and then it became a very inclusive documentary in a sense at the same time. It just was, everyone in the neighborhood is included in what they feel about it. And I think that it just all kind of works together in that way, which I think is part of what makes it really strong. What's happened with this documentary? Because, like I say, it was hard for me to find it and come across it.
Well, that was VHS days. I mean, I shot it on High 8, and then I had a screening at the Charles Alice and a couple of places. I did do a pretty good round of festivals.
Yeah.
So it did well at a lot of festivals. I remember we went to Edinburgh, and they're very discerning audiences, and they ask a lot of questions. And one of the first things they asked me was, how can Americans let this happen to their history?
Totally agree with that.
Whoa,
So you
I
had to
was
get
like,
into that.
I don't know. That's why I made this. I was in a city that's a World Heritage Site, where there's buildings from the 1200s.
Right.
And we mow down things from the 50s and 70s because they're old.
Yeah.
So it did well at the festivals. There were a bunch of people who would call Channel 10. This is what I think is interesting about me and Claudia, because we kind of come from a similar place in terms of documentaries and then quirky short fiction films.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of comedy in your background, but
No time to
so
wait.
I guess a bunch of people wrote to them and called them, and I did get a call from the then station manager, I believe. And he brought me in, and then he finally said, well, it was shot on High 8, so we can't show it. It wasn't, high enough resolution. So, so I haven't had anything shown on Channel 10 except this really silly...
that promo.
Yeah, that little promo. Hello, Milwaukee, or goodbye.
Yeah.
What is that?
It was nice.
What's it? Milwaukee is calling. I can't. Yeah, they'll just put that in some places. But yeah, it never really got any kind of legs in terms of the distribution or anything. It's 30 minutes, so it's an awkward thing. The library bought a bunch of copies, and individuals bought copies, and I like to move forward, so to make a DVD, it felt like I just made it into a really big deal in my head because I wanted special features and all that kind of thing. But hot off the presses, to replace your pirated copy is one of the. I just burned it today. It's just Death of a Corner Drugstore. You turn it on and it plays. So if you know anybody who knows how to do, I don't know, sleeve design. I hate that stuff, like doing labels.
I love doing that. I'll do it.
Like just sometimes the hardest thing for me is getting the label on the DVD to just line up right. After working on something for a year, that's like a crowning achievement.
That's it. I'm done. I'm not putting this up.
So I need a sleeve design, and I'll contact the library and let them know. I mean, they contacted me like 5 years ago. And I haven't gotten around to it.
So you're in the county cat system, huh?
I'm a county cat. Yeah, I hope. I don't know.
Well, in addition to that, was it the guy who brought it? Another customer came in. I think it was a different customer came and saw that I had Death of a Corner Drugstore. And then he was just like, oh my God, I have to watch. I think he's the one who said he had to watch it. Either that or he's the one who brought me the VHS from the library. But then he said, I have all the news footage of the closing of the drugstore. So then he brought me all the news footage. So then I took that and tacked it on. So I can give you some of that too.
That would be great for the extras.
Yes.
Did I get his permission for that?
Yeah, probably. But maybe the library can, if you put it on, then maybe the library can do something about that.
Yeah.
But that's interesting too to see all the news that was happening at that time in addition to this drugstore that was closing. And his family recorded every channel, like channel 12, channel 4, channel 6. So it's really interesting to see. Sort of, it puts it into context of what was happening in the world, what was happening in Milwaukee.
O.J. Simpson, that whole thing was going on at the time. Because I remember shooting a National Enquirer story in the background. It was like world's fattest woman, and O.J. Simpson was in the headlines. So, wow, that's a long time ago. It's amazing.
Oh my God.
And yet it seems like yesterday to me. That's the scary part.
See, that was before my time, and before I was, walking around Milwaukee on my own and living in Milwaukee as an adult. So I'd never gone to the drugstore. I was never there. I never had that experience. So seeing this documentary was really awakening because I love this city. I absolutely love Milwaukee, and to see, Paul Finger's in this movie. There are people in this movie that I've seen walking around. There are people that I know that are in this movie, and I'm just like, oh my God, this really is an institution. This isn't just a, like a documentary with so-and-so interviews. I know some of these people, so it just feels like I missed out on a piece of history, but I'm so grateful that you made it because I feel like it's still there for me. Like in some ways, like there is something still there. There's something still left.
Well, the essence of what it is something that can always happen again. And in a sense, I was trying to explain it to some other people upstairs before you guys came. And again, it's hard to explain a place to someone that's never been to the place. And I was trying to think about something comparable in Milwaukee, and I can't think of anything comparable right now. I mean, there are places like Altera or the Fuel Cafe or whatever. The Sydney High building. Yeah, the Sydney High building.
Which is getting raised.
Which is getting raised. But Sydney High, I guess
that's got stories, Brooke.
Yeah.
There's another one.
Don't make me.
Oh, Brooke, the stories.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Sydney High. Yeah.
Oh,
there's got to be so many stories.
Well, if you come to Milwaukee and do it with me, I'll do it. But I'm not shooting another documentary by myself. That's hard.
So
know.
It was hard, huh?
It was hard. It's just a lot of footage, and then I edited it. So it would be nice if I could have somebody else shoot it. Be there.
Right.
I'm thinking that if you would have made that documentary today, it probably would have had more legs because there isn't that problem that filmmakers were faced with in the up until the late 90s into the early 2000s, where what you do does not meet standards
Right.
of broadcast.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, for one thing, you can do a crappy YouTube video, and that can go viral and be all over the press and all over the news.
But I think that's sort of bullshit too, because I mean, they show old movies, they show old things.
I know.
It's like,
Yes.
it's ridiculous
So
to say.
you think it's a little bit of an elitist.
Absolutely. I think they were pissed that they didn't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Frankly, I mean, well, why didn't we think of that
Yeah.
and do it?
Well, they would have done it in a completely different way.
Yeah.
And I think that part of what's great about it is the in-depth, the way you got in-depth, and the way that you, again, didn't...
Personal.
It's close up.
personal.
It's close up.
You didn't defer to authorities, these sort of like people who are going to be the spokespeople for everyone else. You deferred to everyone. And I think that they couldn't have done that. They just wouldn't work in the format.
Right.
And actually that kind of goes to the way you work, because you
The
work with
medium
emails
is
a little more.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I think the making of Milwaukee, again, in a maybe in a completely different way, does get into the little. It reminds me of when you go to a cemetery and you see all the gravestones and all the last names, and you think, wow, each one of these people played a role in this city, and there's so much history, and yeah, you're not just stuck with like the mayor and this person who did this. You can talk about everyone.
Right.
When you start talking historically. I don't know. I guess I'm not making a very clear point, but
But I think like the reenactments really added a great deal to that piece, because when you started showing those strikes, I found that the strikes really drew me in.
Right.
It was real conflict, and there were
And it
very
showed
high
common people. You know, it wasn't just because remember when you were in high school learning history, it was all battles and mayors and governors and presidents and dates and wars, and then you would just regurgitate it for the test.
Right.
But they never taught it through the other things that were going on. Like we showed architecture, all the ethnic traditions.
Yeah.
There's
that
a lot
we
of
showed.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of a sociological focus in the movie, and there's definitely a personal focus on what the average citizen went through, what the average person went through, and what the average worker went through too, which I thought was the most moving part of it. Was how the politics of the city and how the changing tides of industry affected workers, and how that affected families, and how that affected children, and how that affected, I mean, all these things, especially the era in the documentary that's about the Depression. I mean, that really covers all the bases of it that I just never would have known that kind of stuff. I thought it was just fascinating. And just also the information in it, just learning about the different how many different breweries there were, and then how many different kinds of manufacturing we have in the city. I just couldn't believe it, and how many things that we patented. And I actually did further research on the typewriter after learning about it in the documentary, and I found out that had the typewriter not been patented here, and somehow when the typewriter was still in its infancy, and when I'm sorry, I don't remember the company that first did the typewriter, but it was here. Word got along to Mark Twain, and Mark Twain invested all his money in it, but because it collapsed, because there weren't enough people to invest in it, that's why Mark Twain had to go on his famous lecture series, which is considered by a lot of historians to be the greatest lecture series in American history.
Oh my
and
God.
he lost all his money in Milwaukee, and that's why he had to end up touring and giving this great wealth of spoken letters to America.
Oh
Now you have to go back and do a
re-edit.
special features thing for a new DVD reissue of Mark
That's
Twain.
great.
And then your archive footage too, of those giant. I mean, just this giant industry, and just seeing it utilized in World War I, World War II. I mean, just even like when there wasn't footage of people getting killed and stuff being blown up, which is sort of where my childish mind goes all the time with a lot of that stuff. I just was imagining all this technology sort of being used, and and just it was just really awesome to think of our city playing that much of a vital role in all these different landmarks in history. I just had no idea.
Bustling. It was a
It
bustling.
was. This was an
happening.
amazing city. I mean, it was just like one of the finest cities in the nation.
And the river, and what a role the river played. And now you see the river and you're like, oh, the Milwaukee River. It's just
Right.
kind of there, and there's, you know, the lakefront
You
breweries
better
on
get
it.
your shots if you fall in it.
Yeah,
that kind of
and
thing.
you know, and there's like a crew team that rolls on it and stuff
Right.
like that. But other than that, the river isn't really used for anything
The
anymore.
reason Milwaukee is here.
It's amazing.
Because of all of
It's just
that.
it was just so fascinating. So I was wondering if you could talk maybe about John Gerda a little bit. I don't know. I just found him. He's the narrator
want the real
in the
story?
film, and I just want to hear about him a little bit, maybe.
John Gerda is a treasure for the city. I mean, he can. It's all in his head. He doesn't have to refer to notes. You can ask him just about anything, and he can just pull it out. It's incredible. And I always consider him like a brother from another mother. We both grew up in Hill's Corners. We were living these parallel lives. Then our parents are from the similar areas in the city, and then we both lived in Bayview when we were making the film. We just got along so well. He is the man you see. I mean, that's who he is. He's extremely funny. Maybe that doesn't come across as much on the screen, but he's a very funny man. He's really funny. And I think he's the best ambassador.
Yeah.
You know, when he leaves.
That's really what he
He
is.
is.
Yeah.
He's just this knowledge and encyclopedia.
I remember being at a party with you,
Uh-huh.
and some drunk guy was saying,
Yes.
remember?
Yes, I
This guy
do.
was dissing John Gerda. and
Oh man,
what do ya-
the hackles.
I thought she just went red from the neck up. I thought you were going to
I
kill
was gonna hit him.
You
I remember
almost did.
exactly who that
Yeah.
was and when that was, but I won't.
But I thought
Oh.
that was a testament to your loyalty.
My loyalty to my friends. Yeah,
Yes.
he's incredible. The only weird thing was that when we were first shooting, the executive producer was Bill Werner, and he said, you know, we don't have a budget for clothes, so you're gonna have to go over to his house and pick up the clothes. And he refused to be there. John was not gonna be there. So Sonia, his wife, lovely woman, I adore her. Her and I had to go through his closet and his drawers and pick out clothes for him to wear.
But Ken Burns never had it.
I bet not.
Maybe
Everything's fine.
Well, that top drawer just.
grand.
He had drawers in his closet.
Well, yeah, you did the dresser. He went through his dresser.
He went through his dresser drawers.
I let Sonia go through it. I was watching. Yes.
Well, it took place over a long period of time, right? So
Took a long
There's a lot of
time.
different outfits.
It took, I know a lot of seasons, and I started going gray and had to do a little Grecian on it. But it took 5 years to
Yeah.
make that. But it took about a year to write the script, and then pre-production and research. And research, you gotta remember, the times have changed. Everything has been digitized now. You go to the State Historical Society, you can just, go on your iPhone and look at the pictures. At that time, like you go to the state, especially Milwaukee County Historical Society, nothing's fine. So I carried around this giant
Everything's
case with
grand.
a giant scanner. And I
Everything's
scanned
going
everything was scanned. And it took us forever because I had to be high res, it was
Cumbersome.
really cumbersome.
A lot of post-production.
Everything's
A lot of
fine.
Yes.
Everything's grand.
But in a way, maybe sometimes those limitations, I don't know, sometimes they work in your favor or something. I mean, in some ways, when I look at Brooks, one of the things that excited me a lot about seeing Death of the Corner Drugstore was the format. Maybe it's because I'm an experimental filmmaker, but it was the first time that I'd seen that, like, we visited that leap that's happened since you were making, and I was also working on similar kinds of documentaries at the time, or projects, and we were, we had to work with these prosumer types of cameras, and then try to maybe edit on 3/4 inch, or I don't know what you were editing with at the time.
It was sometime last fall.
And you'd have glitches, which would be a huge issue for a filmmaker. But today, that kind of thing almost is endearing. It's become part of the nostalgia of the era is in the technology itself. And so for me, it's like there's something kind of charming about seeing that format. It's seeing a documentary done in sort of it's like part of the zeitgeist. Is the format itself is telling a story.
That's why I'm called
I can see me, the
when you
difficulty, like the difficulty you
this
have to
message,
encounter with things like lighting
don't think our
and editing
friendship
and
had an
tapes
end.
and
I
and
just want
control
my
track and all of those kinds of things,
Thank you.
color correction and handling all of that,
Your
which at the time it seems as though it's like, oh, I can't, I'm not up there with the big boys, you know, they have all the good equipment and I'm doing this out of my pocket, but because of history, through history, it sort of justifies itself where you're like, oh, this person made this documentary, you can tell she wasn't
all
doing
I
it with a big,
I'm
she didn't have
I'm
a ton of money
Bob.
behind her. She's doing this out of a love for the thing. And it comes across just in the format itself, in a way.
Never
in the
harass
material
you.
itself, which
Please
a
pay
really
my
beautiful way
money.
to put it. It reminds me
That's
of a friend of
all
mine.
I ask you.
Was about to take a job. He's a cinematographer in Colorado, and he wasn't sure if it was going to be erotica or porn. He wasn't sure what he was stepping into. And somebody asked him, well, what's the difference between erotica and porn? And he said, time.
Oh, wow. Wow. It's really beautiful.
20s, the 1920s, their porn is incredible now that we're getting that stuff. It's part of history. Like, just like you were saying, formats are like, wow, that was considered risque
Right.
back then. And so I love that answer. You know, that time kind of validates certain things. And, you know, it was very true that at that time I was feeling, God, I wish I had this camera. God, I wish I had this. God, I wish. And now I kind of look at some things like they're too pretty.
Yeah.
They're too pretty.
Well, yeah.
Right.
We're not that pretty.
Right.
And then you got to
You're
put all that
human.
makeup on to.
Yeah.
I think your movie has a very specific look to it, and I think that there's the fact that you shot it on high 8, and there are obvious limitations to that, but at the same time, I mean, and Zav, you know, you're an experimental filmmaker, you know how to, I mean, you like the ups and downs of certain formats. I love the limitations of video. I love the limitation of high 8. I love the limitations of some of that stuff. And I think you did an amazing job because there's a consistency to it. And then there's this orangish quality to the film. There's there's a hue to it. And like whenever I see that, what I refer to it as is Godfather Golden is what I always say to people. And
That's a nice one.
and so there's like this look of like colors seeping in all the time, and there's spots in the drugstore that you can tell are aged. And because of the format you shot it on, if you would have shot it on 16mm, it might have just been like, okay, you know, it would have been like, just like, oh, okay, it would have just looked as it was. But I think you almost lent it this quality that, yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't have anything further or poetic to say other than that I thought it
Well,
looked
I'll
neat.
carry Godfather Gold around with me for a long, long time. Got me there.
Nice.
Well, look, just along that same tangent, that's what I like a lot about John Waters' early films, and what I like about Night of the Living Dead is that they both lend the form, the quality of the film itself gives you a creepy vibe in John Waters' films, and it does lend well to the story that's being told in terms of the fact that they didn't have a big budget. And you see John Waters' more big budget films, and they're good in a different way, but they don't have that sort of
Yeah.
There's not an immediacy to it, yeah.
Right.
yeah.
You can't take that.
Right.
You know?
It's just what happens when you don't have everything. You're just barely making it happen. You know, then it's an economy of resources or whatever.
It's like rich white kids trying to be cool.
Yeah, it doesn't work. That's really true.
Wow.
Great line.
So true. Wow. Wow. Sure would take that. That's really awesome.
Started on
You know, and just to finish up on John Waters, he often has said that his greatest, his greatest regret is ever becoming successful, because he wishes that he had the pain of still having to shoot on lower formats, or to shoot with 8mm. He talks about watching films on 42nd Street, having to release, like if Pink Flamingos hadn't made it, he's like, God, I wouldn't have been happier. He's like, I could just make films like that for the rest of my life, you know. Yeah. But Brooke, do you have any other?
Have I done anything?
Have you made anything else since? I guess. I guess just to inform our listeners.
I've had a lot of short films. I've done a lot of fiction. Worked on a few documentaries. And just recently, I'm still tinkering. I thought it was finished, but I'm so anal with editing. I'm still tinkering with a feature that I co-produced and I'm editing still, called White Wind. And Dan Wilson, who's a filmmaker in town, directed that and wrote it. It was all shot, I'd say 99% of it was shot in the Huracan Marsh. Illegally. And that's we got kicked out of the marsh. On the federal side.
Were there cranes when you were shooting?
Oh yeah. There's cranes. Cranes are a big part of this film. Yeah, he did. He was a crane wrangler. There was some. Yeah, I said you gotta get those cranes to move, and he went into the marsh and started flapping it. Wow. Yeah, so we needed that shot. So. Yeah, so that's...
Words of a filmmaker right there. We needed that shot. Wow.
We needed that shot. There was, Dan and I did a lot of illegal things to get those shots. Like a lot of trespassing on those wind turbines.
Oh.
The wind turbines are a major character in the film.
Oh.
And not in a good way.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, not in a good way at all. So we trespassed on wind turbines. Took a lot of footage there between the wind turbines and the birds and Huracan. So we're actually going to have a screening of that in November at the Milwaukee Art Museum. It's going to be featured in the Short Film Festival, even though it is a feature.
Sure.
We're going to show it on a Friday night, I think.
Okay. And that's something that the Art Museum hosts every year, or is it part of the Milwaukee?
The Milwaukee Short Film Festival.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
Maybe we could do a show on that and have you and
with you
another
and
guest
Dan,
back. Yeah, that'd be
Claudia can come back.
Absolutely.
She's a good interview.
Yeah, and Claudia, before because we're getting
wrapping
close
up.
to our, we've got about 9 minutes left.
We didn't say how we met.
Well, that was my next question. How'd you meet?
We sound like we're lovers or something.
Yes.
How we met. Ooh, we are big fans of each other.
Yes.
I think she's
I adore her.
brilliant and just one of the best humans on the planet.
Oh my God.
Period.
Watch out, Greg.
There you go.
But that doesn't tell us how you met.
Oh, how we met.
How did we meet?
Well, there was
tell.
a activist in town, we'll say, who
What was she
wanted to
called?
make
A media activist,
a
wasn't she?
media
Yes.
activist.
Oh,
okay.
kibitz.
Who
You tell it.
had a real. Her biggest talent was getting money and getting good people to work for her, and I include Claudia in that. And there's 4 other women who.
Got ensnared by her.
Yes, we got ensnared. Each of us was royally screwed by her in some manner. Some of us emotionally, me financially. You kind of slipped away to New Zealand for a year and avoided that. So we kind of formed this group. We started comparing stories. And then we realized, oh, I'm not crazy. She did this to everybody and screwed us all in different ways. And we became,
The go-go.
yeah, we became a little group. And we formed a friendship that's lasted, 10 years
Yeah.
at least from there.
That's-
So from anger, I mean, I was like, that's what I got out of that horrible experience with
And it
working
was
with
well
a
worth it.
moron was
So
3 amazing friends.
Yes.
So-
We're going to one of their.
Yes.
One lives in New Zealand, and we're going to
Go to
go
her
visit
wedding.
her.
And you call yourselves the Go-Go's?
We were the
We
go-go's.
kinda
Hey,
were.
well, that went on.
And Scorned by Fill in the Blank
Yes.
was her name.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, God. Oh, man.
That is really
Couldn't help it. You had to throw a name. I love it.
Yeah.
Couldn't help it.
And well, also, I mean, I was kind of when I do want to hear what you're doing now and well,
She's powerful.
give us a little
so
thumbnail
powerful.
sketch of what you're up to.
Well, I finished making in Milwaukee, and then I left.
Okay.
I just
did
would-
you leave
I
like
knew
you
everything
quit
I
or you were
needed to
burned
know.
out on?
Driven
No,
out of
I
town.
love Milwaukee.
Uh-huh.
I love Milwaukee so much. I wore this today because my grandfather used to work at A.O. Smith, during his breaks, he took garbage and twisted it into these beautiful bracelets.
Okay.
And my mom was going to throw that out, and I thought, absolutely not. So that's how much I love Milwaukee.
Oh.
Yeah, we're a little A.O. Smith on me. But I went to Madison because my husband got a job there. And then I kind of stumbled into a job that I'm still doing. Got into management and not really doing.
Oh, okay. So you're not
anymore.
continuing to do film right now.
I just do things. My husband Tony Wood makes films, and he does these 48-hour festivals.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So we've been doing. So I kind of lend a hand to those, and I just do anything, which I love doing. I love just getting the pizzas, or you need this gravestone made. Okay, I'll go make a gravestone. Just whatever needs to be done at the moment, I will go do.
That sounds fun.
I love doing that part, and then he gets to act and direct and play.
We were in one together.
And we did,
we made two.
We
The
made,
first two.
yeah, I didn't do the second one, but the first one with Chase was great.
Bad Dream.
Bad Dream, I love that one. Oh my God, she is hysterical in that. You are hysterical. Oh my
Great
God.
stuff comes out of those high pressure
Oh, it really does.
filmmaking situations. Yeah.
I made the 24-hour one is really crazy. I made a
24-hour. Oh, that's insane.
yeah, because they do the 48-hour.
What about the 12-hour? Do you know
the
what
12-hour? The 12-hour? Oh my God.
What about the
Stephanie
20-minute one?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Oh,
Is there
God.
a 20-minute one? Oh, no.
I just made one right now. And it's released.
It's
Just
amazing. I
instantly.
see it.
Yeah.
No, this is true. Stephanie Barber, who was a really great filmmaker
I gotta
and
meet her. I've
poet.
always
Yeah, well, she lives in Baltimore now.
Oh, everyone's in Baltimore.
She
Kathy
followed
Cooks
John
and
Waters.
She came up with I think it was her idea. She came up with this concept because she was a processor at UWM of a 12-hour film fest where people would shoot 16
ouch.
and
Process it.
process it. She would process it all, give it back to people, and then they'd edit it. And you're talking about sound, sync sound. Your using mag and film, and then it would
Stick
be
needles in my
projected
eyes.
12 hours later, and people did the best work
Oh, absolutely.
the year.
This is your instinct working.
Yeah.
You're not
Yes,
letting
you
your
can't
brain
overthink.
get in the way.
Yeah.
Right. Can't
And that's what we
overthink.
do. We let our brains
Primal
get in the way.
filmmaking.
Primal.
Dirty,
Primal.
quick,
I like
immediate filmmaking.
Dirty.
Well, have you seen
I
combat
completely-
theater where they do that with theater, where they write and direct and put a play on in 24 hours, then they do it again the next night after no sleep.
Wow.
The second
yeah.
night's always great.
That sounds
Gotta be
great.
surreal. Well, I think that'd be even more awesome if the audience
Had to stay.
stay up awake
Yes.
too. Oh my God, that sounds great.
Yeah, combat theater. Here in Milwaukee.
Oh, it is in Milwaukee.
Yes. Jim
Okay,
Fletcher and
so
Bunny Gumbo.
should check that out.
Yeah, that's.
There's a lot of great theater.
And Brooke,
going on.
you do a radio show, right? Are you involved with the radio show that happens here?
I'm going to be writing some pieces, but I've been just lending my voice. And we get the scripts a
To the
good half hour before we go on.
Wow.
So we're really able to.
you're on the Onion Breath?
Onion Breath, yeah.
Okay, Onion Breath is actually after our old shows,
Which is
our,
now.
our old time.
Should be in about-
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably going on about
5 minutes,
in about 5 minutes or so. It's
Are they
on
doing
7
it?
o'clock on Friday nights.
I saw an email that said they were gonna meet at the Fuel, so I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
Or maybe
they're a
they'll
fantastic
be doing it
group.
when we go upstairs.
I love your guys'
Yeah.
work. I love it. I think it's just great, and it's crazy.
It is fun.
It's
Well, I
really
love
crazy,
that
and it's
it gives
the
the radio
whole
station
northerners
a living
exposure feeling of being in that storefront and making sound effects
Yeah.
really loud, and people are walking by and looking at you like, what's going on?
Are
in
these
there?"
online?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything
Oh,
is at
send
River
me.
West Radio. and
Oh
River West Radio.
my God, I
Yeah.
saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I live in Madison. We don't have the internet.
Oh yeah. Well,
The tubes have made it
catch
right
up
in
soon.
Madison.
Well, we've been talking with Claudia Luz, who made The Making of Milwaukee, a 5-hour plus documentary for Channel 10 about the entire history of
People can
Milwaukee.
get it. They can get it on. I mean, you could buy it
They
online.
replay it.
It's very
Isn't it
expensive.
always being played?
They played on Channel 10.
It's probably being played on Channel 10.
And you can
Seems
buy
like
it.
every time I turn on the WHA station, the public station in Madison, on one of the side channels, it's just always on.
Okay, so
It's
people
the best
just can
thing they
catch it.
ever made. Channel
Made
10.
the most money for them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow! Congratulations.
And
I didn't see one dime of that, but
Well, but still, you can at
no,
least
but I won an
know.
Emmy with it. It did win an Emmy.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Right.
Wow.
Regional, but it won an Emmy.
no,
yeah.
an Emmy is an Emmy.
An Emmy's great. Yeah, it's like a weapon. It's amazing. They are amazing. I've never. It was so wild to get that. Yeah. So John, Bill, and I both got it.
Did you go to a ceremony or did
Yeah, Chicago. Got all dressed up. Put the hair up and everything.
Did you have to select the wardrobe for?
for John?
I had to.
Yeah.
And I had to tie his tie and zip his fly. Yes.
And we spoke with Brooke Miraldi, who directed Death of a Corner Drugstore, which was about the unfortunate closing and metaphorical end of a lot of businesses in America. But it was specifically about the closing of the Oriental Pharmacy in Milwaukee. And it's a very touching documentary.
Available at the library.
Available at the library.
Well, it will be
yes.
after I start burning.
Available with newer with DVDs. However, I think it looks great on VHS. in the version that I saw it on, which was a Blu-ray.
VHS to DVD.
VHS to DVD, which looked great. And
Yeah, we're out of
out of
time.
time. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for coming here. This was
Great.
great. Thank you so much. This is just absolutely
I never get
wonderful.
to see Claudia. I lured her
great.
into town to do this. So.
Okay, good. Okay, and that
We
was,
are here today interviewing.
that was our interview with Moralzi and Claudia Luz. And now I have Mark Escribano here in the studio. And Mark is a longtime Milwaukee filmmaker, but he also now resides in LA. And Mark is doing a campaign to raise money for bringing together a bunch of films that you started or that you completed a while back, but you want to make like a compilation of them, or tell us what your plan is.
Well, it's called Orphan Art Films. It's basically a lot of the 16 films I made while I was involved in the art making community here in Milwaukee. And they're mostly pretty much complete films, except for one, which I'll explain momentarily. But they're pretty much all films that were like 98% done. But when I lost access to the tools that you need to finish them, such as the Steam Deck, which is the flatbed editing machine, and the like a mag recorder and all that.
Right.
So basically, there's a lot of these films that I made. They're pretty short films, but they're these short sort of art films that a lot of people have never seen because I've never had them on a viewable format. So, I've been carrying this with me for a while. I just want to finally finish these.
But I just don't wanna spit in the water, just a drop in the bucket, poison well, insomnia, movement propelled, just another dumb fuck hit. I gotta eat, but I just don't wanna spit in the water, just a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, it seems like short films tend to lend themselves to being experimental because by nature of the fact that they are unconventional in and of themselves. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I have to think a little bit about what it is that makes a short film different from a long narrative type of film, and then in that sense makes it separate, makes it kind of experimental. But
You cut out the final edit, sorry son, there ain't no stars here, just fade out, dot, splice, 24 frames per second, splice, you cut out the final edit, sorry son, there ain't no stars here, just fade out, dot, whoa.
Yep.
Toby smokes, that wasn't the cure, nor was it the antidote. Feed me fantasy, intravenous escape, casualties of war, and scenic landscapes. Dead man's voice,
A short film really allows you
or just cryogenics master. Take a swim in silver, shower of a celluloid while you study the antics of Sigmund Freud. I got it, but I just don't want to spit in the water, just a drop in the bucket.
For me, I really like short films that are short that really
hit, I gotta eat, but I just don't wanna spit in the water, just a drop in the bucket, poison well, insomnia, movement propelled,
just whether it's a short film festival or something like that. And these are the types of films, like when you go to short film festivals, a lot of times now you see short films that are basically short versions of longer films.
Oh, right.
You know what I'm saying? These are not that.
They're like teasers or whatever. But this.
Yeah, these are like real short films where they're really just designed to exist in this format. So I just think about
Come on over to Toby again, Toby again. Yeah, come on over to Toby again, Toby again. Here's a kiss on the lips that Toby does.
Yeah, and for some reason I was thinking about ad films. The way that ad films are short films that
A little hotter,
because they're
a little wetter, a little better, behind the ear. Switch on there, and here, the lip, so wet, you bet, it's best.
the most common movie, and yet we don't ever consider that it film as part of an ad film festival. That's the kind of thing that people don't pay attention to. But I often think that ad films are a great source for experimental film concepts because they're just these bizarre devices, these tools
A little harder, a little wetter, a little better.
where the whole point is to just entertain you
More
as much
fun,
as possible.
it's better than none.
Anyway, it's just a funny thing like
In hot weather.
what happens to film students when they go to film school. Most of them never made a feature length
Come
film,
on
all of
over,
them are
give
short
trouble
films.
your kill.
And then a lot of them end up in the ad industry.
I said now,
Find
come on
themselves.
over, give trouble your
I think that a lot of the short film
It's a
activity
lick
ends
on
up
the tongue and a kiss that trouble
but of course your work is
Come on over, give trouble your kill. A little harder, a little better, a little sweatier, a little brightlier behind the ear. Where I'm trouble and here, the lips, so wet. Come on over here, old trouble your kiss. Come on over here, trouble your kiss. Show me like those kisses now. Walk your ass over here, trouble your kiss. Show me like those kisses all over. Give trouble your kiss. Trouble your kiss. And I can feel on the foot, on my neck, on my belly. Come on, smell me with your lips. So sweet. You're the best.
Maybe that type of limitation exists on, obviously it exists in the ad world,
Yeah.
where you're trying to get a point across, or you're trying to maybe get multiple points across, and you have multiple agendas that you're trying to achieve in a 30-second, minute and a half format.
Yeah.
And I think that really challenges the creativity of people.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as it was. Try to do all these things.
It's very hard. And you can make a very boring 1-minute film. You can make a 1-minute film that will make people want to kill themselves.
Absolutely.
And I know this because I've judged a lot of short film festivals.
You judge many.
Yeah, many student film festivals. And I love being a judge because it's sort of like this source of interesting mistakes, or like I'll watch a short film that a student makes. I know what they're trying to achieve, and sometimes it'll be the thing that they're not conscious that they're doing that's the most interesting thing about the film. But tell us more about these films in particular. How many films are they, and what is your intention? What is your idea of? Because this is for a Kickstarter campaign.
It's a Kickstarter campaign. It's well, I can give you more details about it. There's 9 short films. I would say out of those short films, the only one that ever made it to release point exhibition.
Oh, okay.
Where the sound is made to the visual. Right. There's really only one of them. That particular film did show so that's the only one.
Only 3 things are likely to be taken to machines like radar.
Into this festival to do that.
Right.
The other films just never made it that far. They're pretty much done, but as you're familiar, basically, they have a separate sound, or what do you call it? Double system.
Double system, right?
Double system sound. So basically, these are all the films that didn't make it to the release or exhibition.
We're living it up, gust, distrust, combusting, hold a disgust, rust, middle water comes to dust, dirty dust, word term nuts, crack crops, coming is must, touch from the heart, then multi-side, cry without eyes, tongue snake tied, through a little bit the depth from the mind, landslide, wave wash away your top side, oblige, combine, hard to rewind, hatred divine by the theory of design, your wine, Moscato, pour by lotto, harder to swallow, girls don't follow, stop you, hexagon mesh, to test the distress with multiple flesh, movement to dance, Dracula trance, clinch by chance, fight without lance, sandstorm time to the Persian advance, background chance brings us back to dance,
Yeah.
Rejected.
Right.
So when I found
background
out
chance
they actually
brings us back to dance,
B-boy, rude boy. We in the area I style, you know how we get down. Sin.
I was like, well, let's just
B-boy, rude boy, styling.
I'm gonna dance.
Four-pack king need a proof. Every cool slow, every dark clock we ran through. Yard bird, early ones on snooze. Show and prove, we make moves, them fake moves. We what true, B-boy, rude boy. Been stayed up on that hard rock rule. We cruise on fools, cruise them dudes. Who they lose, they don't pay dues. Got babies gonna step in our shoes. Osprey blue, Colombo cruise. Rest area store, off you. Chanting and change them you. They Picasso view, they don't know what they doing and we come true. B-boy, rude boy, B-boy, rude boy. We destroy them, get up toys. They don't understand where we come for. B-boy, rude boy, B-boy, rude boy. We destroy them, get up toys. They don't understand where we come for.
Constelled by damage, that star shapes. Rest under dream states, populations don't date. Burn your fortune, magazine fame. Knock aside you claim, you're just a no-name. Fuck this rap game, I'm near checkout. Write you a checkout for rappers to shut their mouth. These boys are bad, probably signed with Diddy. You got 5 shots, turn whack like you collab with 50. Skill levels iffy, Mac Miller monotone. Hard to the bone, doubt it, bone marrow's consumed. Hip hop is dust, good I brought a broom. I'm so dope, me too, there's not enough room.
B-boy, rude boy in the area. We just stuck on sin. You know we on star. The clock gets scarred. Humphrey Mikes, we get Bogart. Stump to your heart, rude boy star. Bar, we raise the bar. Think who B-boys are. Them don't want no war. Them get fit of the hard with no regard. Them get hard before they fire. Time, we high wide to do what we desire. Magma hot fire, spit on fire. Shut up them liars and them town fire. Them don't wanna try us. Them can't deny us. They know that we will rule boy a bit of fire. Keep it bumping, bro, that say that, way that walk. You know they say that what? Them bring the rude boy stop. B-boy, rude boy. B-boy, rude boy. B-boy, rude boy. And we tear top.
This is probably the money to be best spent.
Right. And that's not a whole ton of money. I mean, you're talking about like $3,600?
$3,500.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, to be able to make the DVDs as well and everything.
Yeah. Would people get, because usually with Kickstarter, people will offer some little reward for kicking in some money?
Yeah. I think at the 25, I can't remember exactly. It was multiple things. I think at the 25.
Wedding book, who's gonna be in my wedding book? Wedding book, who's gonna sign my wedding book? Many boys come over.
Things like that.
Who's gonna meet my parents?
And where can people go to see your Kickstarter campaign?
You should know this answer. I mean, I guess if you look up
who's gonna be in my wedding book?
Kickstarter, that's the title.
I got it all picked out.
Okay. Yeah. And do you have a website or anything like that people can go to?
I have a website that has
there's lots of blank pages,
snippets of other types of different
all
that
inside.
I've done, and that's just my last name.
We could really do it. We could do it right. Make it happen with my credit card. Hit Vegas tonight if you'll
and that's one thing that people should know about you who, if they've never met you or encountered your work. You're primarily an image person, right? I mean, that's where you would say, I mean, obviously we all consider ourselves auteurs, but you've had a lot of your work has been focused in that regard. Or people come to you and say, hey, we want you to shoot this for us because we really like your image work.
Yeah, well, that came about. That is the case, absolutely. And I would say a lot of my focus, in my work had to do with the sort of visual aesthetic of the work.
We could get presents and respect. We could get kids for the effect. We could show off all we know and do. Everyone would see how our love was so true.
Yeah, basically that happened because I was always shooting my
in
own
my
stuff.
wedding book. Wedding book. There's plenty of pages in a wedding book. I found one at the thrift store just the other day. It was full of wedding pictures. I guess they threw it away. Threw it all away. Threw it all away.
Yeah, you become sort of pigeonholed. So in a sense, I'm just reinforcing that pigeonholing.
Exactly. So then all of a sudden you're a shooter. And you're like, well, no, actually, I'm pretty much I'm always directing or making films. I'm a filmmaker, and I just started shooting. But that happened back. You used to do a lot of yourself. You used to do a lot of performance art as well.
Right.
And if you remember, to make an interesting example on a smaller scale, was
and I want to make it.
It takes a long, even a short film.
Will he? But will he?
Sometimes it takes months to make this film, and then it shows.
Years sometimes.
Yeah, and then maybe it's
in my
short
wedding book.
5 minutes.
Wedding book. Who's gonna sign my wedding book?
Let's say performance art.
If no one's gonna sign my wedding book,
is usually part of this event.
I guess
the event gets a lot of publicity. People, so a lot of people are coming to see it. Maybe you do multiple performances in the summer, for instance, here in Milwaukee. Then everybody knows you as a performance artist.
Right.
And then you think to yourself, well, I've spent like a fraction amount of time on performance art in comparison to film, but everybody knows me as a performance artist. But the same practice carries over to what people are familiar with seeing you as.
Right.
So then they would go to you as Zoff possibly and be like, oh, you're a performance artist. And you're like, no, I spend like 90% of my time making movies.
Right.
So it's, it's just whatever.
Bishop,
well, so how do you characterize yourself? What would be the best way? Is just as a filmmaker? Would you say?
I would say a filmmaker first and foremost, but I really have been focusing a lot more and trying to learn and really embrace the art of directing. I come from that sort of very indie DIY filmmaker background, where director just sounded pretentious to me, and it sounded like it was attached more to the mainstream. You're a director, that means you direct talent, and I always came from that kind of like I just do everything, and I go with the story, and I work with the actors or whoever I choose to work with. But now I'm like trying to focus more on that, and I think in the last couple of years since I've been out there, I've actually like worked with actors and kind of like really trying to embrace that sort of
truth may be hard to find, but falsehood's easy.
Understanding how to manage sets.
Read between the lines. Our imperialism is
tell stories or work with stories. But I was always telling stories. They were
but
just
if you think the
really
people's state is your heart's desire.
This is an interesting question because I think a lot of people in Milwaukee don't really have a sense of what it's like to live in LA. And I think that a lot of people outside of Milwaukee don't really understand how our sort of film community works. Since you've been in both worlds, what are some of the thoughts that you have about those two worlds? And
Khrushchev yelled in Hollywood, "We will bury you."
It's a lot to talk about. I think you go through a lot of
America and Russia want to bomb themselves, okay.
I think, I've been there 3.5 years, and I think I'm
everybody dead on both sides, everybody pray.
How to compare those situations is really very different.
All except the generals in caves where they can hide.
If you look at it just on the simple terms, because
and
it's
fuck
not
each other
stressful
in
to
the
get by
ass
here
waiting
in
for the
many ways,
next
but
free ride.
it's very freeing. Not only is it
No
not
hope
difficult,
communism,
it's hard
no
to get
hope
by
capitalism,
as far as
yeah.
but also there's not as much.
Everybody lying on both sides, yeah. The bloody iron curtain of American military power.
But that makes it
Is
kind
a
of nice
mirror
that you can do
image
whatever
of
you
Russia's
want here,
red
right?
Babel
Like if you're motivated,
Tower.
whatever idea you have, you can kind of execute it, and a lot of the resources
was crucified
within a
by
certain
the
means
mob.
are at your fingertips. And even that
Law
includes
and
your
order,
people,
Herod's
right?
hired soldiers
So you could say,
did the
hey, man, you want to help me
job.
out on this film? Like one of the
Flowers
films, to make
fine,
a connection,
but
I worked
innocence has
with a
got
friend
no
of mine who's a great
protection.
artist, Brent Budgeberg. And I chose him as my
The
lead
man who
character.
shot John Lennon
And
had
it
a
took us
hero
5 years
worshipper's
just
connection.
filming this little by little. We would just film like, if you're familiar with
The moral of the song
like
is
the
that the
Bullets,
world is
you
in
know,
a
100-foot
horrible
little film.
place.
It's like, what is it, a minute and 45 seconds or 2 minutes? What is it?
Scientific
almost
industry
3.
devours
I'm
the
sorry,
human
2:45,
race.
right?
Yeah.
So I would just, whenever I could afford a few roles, we
Police
would
in
shoot
every
literally
country
maybe
armed
3
with tear
rolls.
gas
Yeah,
You know,
and
yeah.
TV.
and then I couldn't afford it, and months would go by, and then we'd shoot again.
Secret
But every time
masters
we filmed, I had
everywhere,
to shave his head,
bureaucratized for
and
you
his
and
face,
me.
like completely shave his head.
Yeah.
And makeup would
No
take like,
hope
an hour to
communism,
do.
no hope
Right.
And then we would
capitalism,
just shoot,
yeah.
9 minutes or 6 minutes or
Everybody
something.
loves
Right, and that could be 9 minutes
yeah,
of doing it 5 times.
Yeah, exactly.
The bloody
But if you
iron
look at
curtain
Milwaukee,
of
just to give you,
American
like, a concrete
military
example,
power.
Yeah, I was never
Is a
worried that
mirror
Brent would
image
disappear.
of Russia's
Or
red
being
Babel
unavailable,
Tower.
I could always get him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Even though he's a very busy
Terrorists
guy,
and police
it's not like
together
LA.
build a
Like, you would
lower
never-
class reach.
You'd never be able to hold somebody's attention. You'd never be able to
Propaganda, murder,
keep somebody
manipulates
on
the
line
upper
that
class
long unless you have,
stage.
more resources.
You
So
can't
people are
tell
being
the
pulled,
difference between a
like
turkey and
even
a
yourself. You're being
provocateur.
pulled into lots of projects and
If you're feeling
lots of
confused,
jobs there. Is
the
that what it's
government's
like?
in there for
Well,
sure.
for me, I think it's different. I mean, I went out there pretty old.
Aware,
I think the
wherever
key,
you are, no fear.
I want to say the key. I would say maybe
Trust
the
your
best time to
heart,
go to LA.
don't
if you
ride
really
your
wanna do that film.
paranoia,
That's
dear.
what the market, that's what everybody does there. Every
Bring
single
together
party
with
you go to, everybody's in the
ordinary
industry in one
mind.
shape or another. And it's not even mainstream industry necessarily. It could be indie
Whoa,
film.
mankind.
But there are art directors
Don't
and
like the
sculptors
KGB
and,
gulag
or whatever.
concentration
set,
camps.
costume people. Every
I
element,
don't like the
every
Maoist Cambodian
everybody's
death
there.
dance.
Very interesting.
15 million were killed by Stalin's Secretary of Terror.
I think if you're mid-20s,
He has killed
it's
our
like a great
old
time.
red
If you are pretty
revolution
sure you
forever.
yeah. Because
Tyranny in Turkey or Korea,
there you're not worried. You don't have a lot of baggage that you're carrying with you as far as what
I don't like
so
right-wing
far.
death
You're
squad
a little
democracy.
you're not set in your ways.
Police stayed around Nicaragua yesterday.
So I think like mid-20s is probably like I went out there 15
police over me.
So for me, it was like, basically, at least this is my opinion, if you go out there
In China,
with
if
something
you
less
disappear,
than
you wouldn't know yourself
a
at all.
recognizable accomplishment, like national
Arise,
recognizable
arise, ye
accomplishment,
citizens of the world, use your lungs.
film festival or something kind
Talk
of
back to the
that would
tyrants,
actually
while they're afraid of is your tongues.
show up on the Richter scale slightly on
Yeah.
the coast,
Who
and
broke
you're
down
basically
course
starting to
history, changes
Yeah.
every night.
So if you go out there and maybe you were pretty big in
If the
Milwaukee,
free
or
world
at least you
nations
went
are
to some smaller film
dictatorships of
festivals,
the
or whatever
right.
it is that you accomplished here.
The
unless
only
it's
place socialism works is in
outside
Gdansk,
of
but
in many
the
places,
communist
and
world
you kind
stuck
of start
together
from
with
zero.
prisoner
And you start from
blood.
zero, at a
General
old age,
Haig
the
said he
difficulties.
had something worth fighting
People-
for,
I think you look
but
at
he
it
never
and
said
compare
what till
it
it
And also it's a
started
pride
his
thing. I mean, you're
Salvador
not
War.
as willing to put up with the same kinds of,
Arabian
that kind of
hostage
condescension.
media
Because,
hysteria
like, well,
sucked.
hey, I know a lot of stuff here.
Well, you know a lot
The
more.
Shah
than
ran
a lot
away
of
with
people
9
do
billion
because here you're
Iranian
able to do
bucks.
anything you want. So if you were self-motivated,
Kermit Roosevelt and his U.S. dollars overthrew Mozambique.
I remember even
They wanted his oil, now they got Ayatollah's brick.
department on the only big film, my biggest film.
They put in the Shah and they trained his police to Savak.
It was Milwaukee, Minnesota.
Right.
And they
All
brought in
I read was our hostage quarter century, that's right, Jack.
film loader, AC, and some of the people
No
from
hope
Chicago,
communism,
people
no
from
hope
Chicago also.
capitalism,
I remember
yeah.
meeting people from Chicago.
Everybody lying on both sides, yeah, yeah, yeah. bloody iron curtain of American military power.
All of us have many short
Is a mirror image of Russia's red bubble tower.
We had shot numerous types of
Aware,
cameras.
wherever you
And
are.
these are people
No
that are like
fear.
working at this higher level, and they're like, I
your
remember, I
heart.
think I was
Don't ride your
one of them
paranoia
was, I remember
here.
Michaela O'Hurley, which is a great artist. I remember one of them was like, I think she was on there. She was communicating with somebody like that. And they were like looking at this film she made. And I may have the name right. It was either her or Carolina Pfister. It was somebody.
Whoa,
And they were like, you made this film? Not because she was a female, but they're like, it was a really complete kick-ass short film, you know? And it was like, they weren't used to doing the whole thing. You know, people learn how to do one element, one part, and they're like, "Oh my God!" Or you've made 10 short films, like I haven't gotten to the class yet where they let me touch the film camera or whatever it is, you know.
Right.
So you can make a lot of stuff here, and that's what's really great. So that, yes, in fact, then you go to these other venues, and you know, you have actually done way more than a lot of these people have, because they've been working just in one position for a while, or paying their dues for a while. And then actually, you know, things might be changing a little bit now with the access to video.
Right. But again, it's sort of like the industry teaches you that you can't go off on your own and do it. The industry tells you in a certain way, if you really want to make it, you got to be a specialist. If you want to be the director, you see a director. That's a really important person with a lot of power. It's like a CEO of a corporation. So if you want to compete in that arena realistically, then you got to be you have to have some serious qualities. You need to be a one-in-a-million person. But in an environment like Milwaukee, you don't have that there to smash your dreams, shatter your dreams, and you can actually go on thinking that you're that special, that you could actually do that. It's definitely but the reality is
We'll share a chocolate bird. That's love, the capital of. Sure as heck.
I look at it.
It's
You're going to learn life lessons if you go to somewhere like this big organization.
Yeah.
Now, is it going to make you a better filmmaker? Not necessarily. You're not going to necessarily. A lot of directing is a lot of big part of directing that people don't realize is just.
I'm the capital of Sausalito. I'm the capital of San Antonio. I'm the capital of Hero Nito. You're my Hawaiian combat zone. I'm gonna drop the bomb on you. Drop the bomb on you.
Yeah.
If it's a little after 2, I'll just drop it.
Are precarious tools. Some are very sharp on one end and dull on the other. You know, some, you know, there's all these different situations, and you have to manage that. You have to manage these egos. And I'm not saying that I'm in that process when I'm managing something. I'm not often in that situation. Also, and that's a big part of the process. That's something that's so it's not just about you having some idea and making it look cool and some story,
right?
And but that's all kind of related. I'm not sure where I went on that tangent, but
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, just listening to you, I can tell you've gotten closer to that fire, and you've seen it in a way that I think a lot of people don't. And I've always felt, because I've taught at UWM and I've been a student at the film department. It's a very well-known, very reputable film department, and it's the specialty of the Milwaukee Film Department is experimental film, experimental cinema. But of course, every average Wisconsinite, Milwaukee person that comes here to go to school and says, I want to be a filmmaker, or I want to explore filmmaking, goes there. Whether they want to be, whether they are sort of like a person who wants to be an auteur director who just makes their films by themselves from their own selves, kind of, or not. And I would tell students, and I'm sure this is, the film department would probably not think this is a great thing to say, but I would think, if before you go get a bunch of student loans and you spend 4 years in this school making films on your own from, in this way, if you really want to be part of an industry, if you want to, make the movies you see that you see on TV and whatever on Netflix, go to LA and be an intern, because you don't have to pay student loans to be an intern, and who knows, maybe if you're an intern for a year, you're going to get a job at a certain point, and then you can get a taste of that industry. But then, if you're really smart, get a taste of it, but don't be convinced that that's what it's all about. Also get a taste of this, because what the UWM Film Department has to offer is, I feel like, a nice antidote to what's happening in the industrial world. And I think that if you can get a balance of those two things, that is a very special kind of education in a sense. Or you could do the opposite, like maybe a couple of years at UWM or a year or so, and then go to LA and try it out, or try New York, and just see how it works out. Or somewhere else, find some film industry that you can, where you can kind of observe how do directors work. And I at the times that I've been on sets, I've, as a PA or whatever, I'm just constantly trying to figure it out, like what's he thinking, and what are they doing, what are they conferring about, or how does this work, how does this whole thing get arranged,
there's no one way. I mean, there's all, everybody has their different approaches, but based on what you were saying, exactly, like, to try to get a better idea of what you really want to do. Like, I don't want to be a commercial director. I felt like,
when you say commercial, do you mean an ad director, or like a commercial movie director?
Yeah, like, basically a mainstream movie director. I mean, right. I've never even, it was never my intention, The most of the, the types of filmmakers I admire are ones that have somehow achieved making more artistic films on a bigger level and small level, but a lot of people, do want to go straight into, if you want to go straight into mainstream, I would say art school is almost probably not really necessary for it to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, you're really going to amass loans, especially now. And it's just not necessary. I mean, if you want to amass loans for paying for your apartment while you're being an intern.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you can learn a lot just going out there, and whether it's New York or LA. I mean, LA is really the mecca for film. I mean, it's everything is about film. Everything you look at, the billboards, the bus sides of the buses, the bus stop, everything is about film.
Right.
But, I think the other thing that can be underestimated, or maybe not underestimated, it was easy to be like a little guy going, they're making this crap stuff, and it's the same shit all the time. Blah, blah, blah. But the other thing I learned on Milwaukee, Minnesota, that I thought, the film that I mentioned like a little while ago, the feature, was it was also the first time I had seen true professionals like that, and these like famous people work. And I learned something from that was really inspiring to me. Was that, I think they know that they have this coveted position. To get paid to be an artist is like the ultimate. It's like the fountain of youth. It's like, you get to be a kid your whole life. It's a very coveted. It's one of the most coveted positions you can. Everybody wants to do just what they want.
It's like being in a rock band.
Yeah, any kind of artistic or a painter, anything. I mean, any type of artistic, to get paid to do what you love to do.
Yeah.
And that thing being using your imagination and sort of playing, basically, in real life. That's extremely rare to achieve one of those positions.
And for example, I do that, but I don't get to be, I don't get tons of money and a big house and all that. So these people are getting the money, they're in magazines, and they get to do that. So.
Yeah, but it's not like they take it lightly, and so I guess, anyways, the anecdote is, I remember we were shooting a scene. I can say a lot about that because there's plenty of things wrong with that movie. I don't want to make fun of the movie. But the point is, we were doing a scene with Randy Quaid, right? And he's, by that time, he was already really long. It was like a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. And it was probably one of the coldest nights in Wisconsin. literally, like on that charts that year, the coldest nights of the year. Shooting 5 like it was even colder down there, like we had to go below the interstate, and the whole crew was completely covered. You couldn't even see people's eyes. Like it was so cold that everybody in the set just had those huge like Eskimo jackets on, and you were just covered, right? Yeah. And his character only wore short sleeves, you know. Yeah. And you know, we had to do this scene in which the director that morning came up with this idea of this whole killing or something, and he wanted when the guy realizes that all the money is counterfeit, he wanted the money to just fly, just fill the screen with money, which wasn't in the script. He came up with that idea. Anyways, so now it logistically got way more complicated than the original thing, right? And there's other anecdotes to tell about how we were trying to make this money. It was really funny. I was working underneath Naomi Montgomery, who was another great Milwaukee artist. And anyways, the point is, we obviously were not going to get this in one take. Like, we're all sitting there going, there's no way we get this in one take. You know? Yeah. And sure enough, it took 3 or 4 takes. Of course, every time we had to go and pick up these dollar bills with our mittened hands out of the cold, icy cement. You know, it was impossible. Randy Quaid was off in an RV, but it was a little ways away because the scene was kind of a wide shot. And I just saw him do this over and over. Yeah. And he never complained. He never asked. Sit right down. Baby, let your hair roll on. Walk right in. Sit right down. He went out and did it again. Baby, let your mind roll on. Everybody's talking about a new way of walking. Do you want to lose your mind? His job.
And he knows there's a lot of competition out there. If he wants to be a prima donna about it, he can take a hike at a certain point. You know, he'll get a bad reputation.
Exactly. So I was just impressed. Daddy, let your hair hang down. Walk right in. People for free. Sit right down. My friends for free. Daddy, let your hair hang down.
Yeah.
Of course.
Everybody's talking about a new way of walking. Do you want to lose your mind? Walk right in.
The importance of it.
Sit right down.
Interested, they think.
Daddy, let your mind roll. Daddy, let your mind hang. Daddy, let your mind roll.
Project, it's a given, right? You're like, this is my film. So then, you know, everybody else gets ornery and tired and impatient way before you do.
Right.
You can go all day long. You're like, oh, did I forget food? Oh, I'm sorry. Are we, you know, you just keep going because you're like inspired.
Yeah.
So then a little while. Yeah. So it's just a good walking on the water. No one heard. It's tearing down the empty pages, leading through his useless life. The man with torn flesh, tearing out their souls, walking his hate, searching for his life. He came walking on the water. No one heard his little cries, tearing out the empty pages, weaving through his useless life. Stalking our battlefields, seeking torn flesh, collecting bodies, stealing souls, taking all the fells down to death's door. Walking on the water, no one heard his evil cries. No one knew that it was coming. No one saw the fire in his eyes. He is the coming savior.
Oh no! That said, where are you this year? What's been going on? What is the world now? And are you think that you're going to be an LA person all the rest of your life, or is this for 5 years? Or
I would say it's like I think we're close.
It's full cries. No one knew that he was coming. No one saw the fire in his eyes.
Like if that happened in Milwaukee, you guys would be best buddies, best friends, forever. When you go there, you can really have, and it's not fake. You don't run into something like a doppelganger or something, whatever. Something that you really get along with from some other part of the world. Just the way that it works over there. You never run into them again, but you can really be running the same touch. So that just learning that. I mean, that's part of the life of things.
Yeah. Those are hard lessons.
They're hard lessons.
Painful.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like
hard on the heart.
It's hard. It's life lessons. Yeah. But you're asking me.
Well, just where you think you're going with your yourself as a filmmaker right now.
So you asked me about being a person. Well, I think when you go in these directions, you have to make a certain amount of commitment because because it's so challenging, you kind of have to think that you're there seriously, right? Paying your dues, as they say. I think a lot of that is just creating a network. Here you can create a network a little more quickly. Right. But when you go to these places, if you just go, I'm just going to try it for 2 years or 3 years. Well, most people there, whether consciously or subconsciously, they're not taking you serious. I don't think they're consciously not taking you seriously. I think it's like a subconscious thing, because of these sort of quick interactions.
Yeah.
Oh, I see you, yeah, I believe you, whatever, Yeah. But then if you keep coming back, you're like, oh, no, this person's for real. Yeah. So it's kind of like a commitment, and I think you have to give it a serious opportunity. You have to say, well, if I just give it a couple years, I'm not going to waste it in the next couple of years. Right. You kind of have to. Now, whether I would live in LA, I would love to travel the world, and it's one of the reasons I got involved in film and that type of thing. It's like I love going everywhere. Yeah. So I don't see myself as an LA person necessarily. Opportunities for themselves. But I think that if I left too early, if I didn't really stick it out, and it's been extremely hard, and I'll throw that out for anybody. If you are not a trust fund kid, if you do not have deep pockets, you are going to get tested in ways that you could never fathom. It's very, very hard. It can be very hard. You'll be the concept of LA noir, which I never really understood. Naively, I was like, I understood noir, like film noir, and I was like, oh, it's LA noir. I'm thinking it's so sunny. How can there be noir? But it's like kind of David Lynch very much tapped into that. It's like this sunny, great everything, but on the underbelly, it's dark. People are there like with all these dreams and hopes and ambitions, but they're all like struggling and lying to themselves. Right. And then there's all these people taking advantage of these situations because it's a constant influx. Yeah. It's almost like, like fish feeding on the smaller fish coming in, it's like, but you learn. It's a good thing to learn. Yeah. I think you can apply that to your art. You can apply that to just how you approach anything in life, by going there. So I think you have to stick it out. But I don't think, I don't think people, it's hard to really understand how you're going to get tested until you put yourself in that position. And hopefully it doesn't.
Right. So basically, the short answer is that you're sticking it out for a while.
Yeah, I think I have to. I love it though. Yeah. It's a really good time. I think, and this is another thing that I think is kind of interesting. Is I actually hang out with Milwaukee people more than I did when I was like here. The bar, you can't buy alcohol after 9. You kind of have to go to the bar. So you kind of end up hanging out with people anyway, right? There you have to make an effort. You have to be like, if you live there, hey, what are you doing? You want to go get a coffee? And there the Milwaukee crew was kind of stuck together. There's some younger guys out there and some other people my age. So we kind of like, I actually see these guys are really right. We work on projects together all the time, especially each other's projects. So, it's not like, I'm still very much connected.
And I've noticed that with you. I've noticed that with Drew, and
it's like a support system.
Yeah, that you guys are not. You're not you haven't just cut us off. You fail. I'm done with Milwaukee. I'm
Everything. What's not about that?
Yeah.
It's not.
No.
It's not like saying that.
Yeah. It is. It's. You're still connected to this place. You just happen to be in this other place. It's a nice thing to see. You know, it's nice to see that with friends, artist friends, or people who you feel sort of connected to. They move on to other places because you just can't make a living making a film in Milwaukee. That's not enough of a support system for filmmakers and artists in this particular town. But a lot of great filmmakers and artists do kind of touch create a little bit of their career and their education here, and then they move out, but they still hold on to what's, you know, the memory of it or something. It's nice to see.
Well, you know, I think it goes back, you know, a lot of times it's easy to critique, you know, especially in Milwaukee. I think people here are very good at critiquing. You know? People here love to critique. You know, I mean, I sometimes call it the home of the hater. You know, because I wasn't from Milwaukee, I came from Florida, but I hear people like have very distinct tastes. You know, and they're very proud of their taste.
I'm gonna start sneaking that one in.
You know, vocal about
I saw
this is
some
the good stuff, or this is the this, and that's bad.
I tell you.
And you know, I think that can actually breed like really people being very you know, like
right, Joanne Chang.
You get spoiled here with a lot of things, like good music, for instance, you know, or good beer, or good. I mean, I hate to be cliche, but it's true. You know, people take certain things very seriously here, and they're very, you know, versed in it. So you can get really spoiled, and you go somewhere else, and you don't get those things. The problem is that there's also like this assumption that anything that's maybe popular or anything that's not what their connoisseurship, admires is bad. So it's not a better or worse thing. You know, it's not like LA is better than Milwaukee. It's It's a different thing. You want this. You want this kind of comfort, and you don't want to be stressed out all the time. But you also just whatever it is that you have, which is not bad. It's fine. It just depends on what you're trying to do.
The boy to the war has gone in the ranks of death. You will find
yourself
him.
In certain ways,
his father's sword he has girded on, and his wild harp slung behind. O land of song, cried the warrior bard, though all the world betray thee, one sword at least thy right shall guard, one faithful harp shall praise thee.
But I think people have a misconception about it in a lot of ways. A lot of it's very true, the stereotypes, but that's also the stuff that's on the surface that you see that's more magnified. And I will say that one of the things that happens when you go to LA and you hang out with your friends and you're at like a backyard party, everybody has the same clothes, they have the same like styles, they have no differences as far as
the minstrel fell, but the foeman's chain could not bring his proud soul under. The harp he loved never sang again, for he tore its cords asunder, and said, no chain shall sully thee, thou soul of love and bravery. Your song was made for the pure and free, it will never sound in slavery.
They're all people that have some similar interests to the things that you like. I'm not talking about other areas. I'm not talking about parties. I'm not talking about parties in certain areas of the West. Aesthetically different. But if you go to the areas of the West, some equivalent, you're going to run into a lot of people that are very similar to the friends that you have. So it's not that different. As people think.
And LA also, my perception of LA, I feel like I've perceived a sort of change in perception about LA in the last decade or so. And I'm not sure what it's about, but it seems to me like the art scene there became a lot more important. People started coming back from LA and saying it's really cool. You know, like it's a really it doesn't, you don't need to drive an hour to get everywhere. You can actually exist in a small community. Things like that people said, you know, LA doesn't have a center, doesn't have a, you know, it just feels like it's just too spread out or something. And I've been hearing, and you know, I've only been to LA like a couple times. For some reason, I've been to the East Coast a lot, but very little to the West Coast. And it seems to me that something's changed about LA in the last maybe 2 decades even, but definitely in the last decade. It used to be people just would come back from LA and say it was horrible. And now I feel like more and more people come back from LA and say it's pretty cool, actually, you know. And I'm not sure what that's all about, but it, you know, maybe I'm wrong, because I'm talking from not experiencing it personally. It's more what I experience other people saying. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's just nice to have lots of different experiences in life. And I probably wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for the fact that I'm so tied into things. I feel like a lot of other people are less tied into things. Like, for example, I have a business. You know, I can't just drop my business, and I could, but then it's like, it's, you know, I'm sort of like losing something that I spent a lot of time building up, and a lot of people feel dependent on it, or you know, I feel a little bit like I feel bad about ending it, you know. And then also I have family here, and a lot of people don't have family here as much, or aren't as attached to their family, and so. But I'm of the same mind in a way. I love having experiences. I love traveling. I almost consider traveling to be like almost one of my cornerstones of how I do my thinking and how I work is through travel. So I completely agree with the things you're saying as far as that, you know, there's no better or worse. Everything is interesting. I even find that some tiny little town in the middle of nowhere, like Milwaukee's considered the middle of nowhere maybe to coastal people, you know, but to Milwaukee people, there are tiny little towns in Wisconsin, tiny little towns in Ohio or whatever, and even those little towns, you'll drive up and there's the center of the town, and there's actually a coffee shop where there's kind of intellectuals hanging out, and there's rebels, and it's just interesting. Almost anywhere you go is actually a very interesting place. And then also it's interesting how when you're in LA, and I find I'm making more comparisons to my experience in New York, you find a way to make small towns within that huge expansive place where I do the same thing. We play soccer with all the Milwaukee people, this one park, and all the Milwaukee people would meet at this one bar, or I had a whole bunch of times we were all like media activists, and we would all hang out together, and we would all go to each other's apartments, and, you know, go out on vacations together and stuff. And it's sort of like you create a little town in this huge town. You're familiar with people, and I think that's what we are. We're wired. We're just have constant maybe pathological or something, or, you know, a serial dater or a serial something, you know. So all the things you're saying make a lot of sense. It sounds good. It sounds like what you're doing is healthy. I mean, I would do the same thing if I could afford to. I would love to do way but it is a little sad to know that you have kind of a window in your early 20s or whatever as a filmmaker, and a certain point, there's a window that closes, you know, for everyone, that you have to kind of like deal with, where it's like, okay, I can't be just like, the world isn't a wide open thing to me anymore, because I'm an older person at this point, you know, and pretty much in my middle age. So when you're at that point, it's not that you can't do those things, you can't just strike out on your own or strike out. It's just different. It's like the world isn't behind you. If you want to do it, you can do it, but you're not going to have the same kind of thing where everyone wants to usher you in and give you a chance. They're more kind of looking at you like, whoa, what's going on? They don't fit the mold. And that's just a different kind of challenge. There's nothing wrong with it.
Thing had to do with this interview that one of the big networks was doing with him because he got listed as one of the most influential people on Time magazine, and he's joking about it. He's like, if somebody would have said, 15 years ago that you would be listed as, one of the 10 or one of the most influential people or whatever by Time magazine, what would you have said? He said, I would have told them that they were wrong, and he goes, and I'll still tell them that they're wrong. But the point being that a lot of people in that arena, they seem like, they're just, sometimes it takes them 15, 20 years, and then they're big, but they put their time in, they hone their skill, That happens even with actors and actresses. A lot of times, they're in their mid-30s before they actually get their first role that works for them. And again, that has a lot to do also with the idea that, stick to what you want to do. You can't sell out. That's the other thing you gotta be careful. You have to stick to whatever it is that you feel best about doing and that you really like to do. And, maybe at some point the zeitgeist of your particular style are going to coincide. And then, it may not. It may never coincide.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it works. Whatever you do, what you get good at, you'll get better at it. And at some point, it'll be close enough to whatever the other thing is, whether that's getting paid to do it, getting recognized, or getting your good at it. And you got to hold on to that and test it in any way, shape, or form. But it tends to be a younger person's game. But a lot of times it just has more to do with obvious factors that people don't realize, which young people start. Right? So if you look at movies or people of interest, you have to be of interest to 14 to 23-year-olds mostly. Right?
Yeah.
People that their parents are giving them money, and then right after that, their credit cards are giving them money. And then slowly after that, they realize, oh wait, I don't have so much money.
And I got to take care of my kids. And give them money.
Exactly. So if you're somehow popular to that demographic, then you have a better chance of maybe being something like money, for instance. At least that's one of the ways.
We'll spread our blankets on the beach. Speak of robots and
styles are not necessarily attractive.
And that's that's a zeitgeist thing in a sense.
Exactly.
I mean, we just live in that kind of culture right in this particular period in time. But it's not necessarily forever. It doesn't need to be that way forever. I mean, you think about the 60s and 70s, a lot of the messages that you're hearing in some of that cinema, like Easy Rider or something, a lot of the message is give young people a chance, give young people, listen to the young people, listen to the youth culture, stop telling young people what to think and what to do. And now it's sort of like that's become the reality. It sort of worked, and for probably all kinds of reasons. And now it's sort of almost the opposite. Like, hey, we need to kind of like start listening to elders a little bit more in this culture. Give elders an ear, or give an ear to elders. Who knows? Maybe that will come about. And if we lived in a different culture, maybe that would be Japanese. Maybe Japanese culture, older people have more success in the film industry. Scripts about older people. Who knows? I don't know.
It's hard to forecast.
Yeah,
absolutely. Get sand out of your ass and get your vocals in funny tune. Cause I like singing with you. We will hit the sidewalk show.
But realistically,
Cause that's the best place to go when we'll sing songs with our friends until the day comes to an end. And we'll sing all about the beach, how we laugh at our beliefs. We'll sing songs with our friends until the day comes to an end. And we'll sing all about the beach and how we laugh at our beliefs. We'll sing songs with our friends until the day comes to an end. And we'll sing all about the beach and how we laugh at our beliefs.
And I know that sounds kind of cliche or cheesy, but that's kind of the truth, right? Because you're trying to, people react to this, so I'm going to do that. People, that'll help me stand out. And I wouldn't say I'm that type of person, but you can't help but to like naturally try to figure out what's the quicker route to get, you know, to do something that might work for you. And anyways, the point being that for me, I was like, you know, this type of filmmaking, these kind of small, weird art films, those are the kinds of things that I didn't have any external pressures on me. I just did what I wanted to do any way I wanted. If it made sense to people, that's fine. If it didn't, that's fine. I had an intention when I was making those, and I didn't have any pressures on me whatsoever. And that is, in fact, the type of film, the type of work that I like to do. How that's related to anything remotely commercial is hard to say. I mean, maybe it's music videos or something of that manner or whatever. Who knows? I'm not really sure. But I just came to a realization, which is, you know, I want these to be films that people can see, because that is in fact the type of work that I feel is the most honest work that I've done, or was very honest. It was work that was very honest when I did it, and so for me it's important to make that type of thing available, because now I'm looking at, I'm feeling more like I'm feeling a little more grounded there, and I know it's important to not just try to please people, but actually just do the work that you feel is more representative of who you are.
Yeah, and I feel like that is one of the hardest things to do, and it's almost hard in a way that's beyond difficult. It's more hard in the sense of it takes time to get there, and it's sort of like you actually arrive at these kinds of things through time and through like an accumulation of life experience. And I think that's really, really great, and it's good to hear that that's where you're at with what you're doing. And good luck with the Kickstarter campaign.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and thanks for coming on. It was supposed to be a 5-minute thing, and it turned into like an hour, which is exactly what I like about this radio station, is that we don't care, because it doesn't matter. You can go as long as you want, because we don't have that kind of pressure to be like, okay, well, now we got to do the next thing right this next second. And I think that we've had some cool experiences with people who actually are sort of, they don't have a lot of time, or they're kind of like the more bigwig types of people, where they'll go on for like an hour and a half, but normally they're used to being on CNN or something where they only get 5 minutes to like put it all out there, and so there's something really cool about that, the ability for us to do that, to talk at length.
Sure.
And this just came. You texted me today, and we just threw it together, and I think it's cool. I enjoyed having the conversation. So, thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you, Zab. Appreciate it.
And when are you headed back to LA?
I leave on the 3rd, so I'll be here about another week and a half.
Okay. Well, good luck with everything you're doing, and hope to see you back in town soon.
Cool. Well, I'd like to see you too. I'm sure I'll run into you numerous times before I leave.
Yeah, and maybe when you come back, we'll have some new thing to talk about.
I'm hoping so, man.
You could tell us how this Kickstarter campaign went. All right. Okay, I'm gonna slide the slider down.
All right.